welcome one and all to the show. I was wired up and fired up about 4 minutes ago, but still ready to go. Episode 46 of BlueTruth, New York Rangers Talk with Brian Attard, powered by the Sports Box Network. Like and follow on Facebook, Twitter X, Instagram. Thank you for those of you who are watching the stream live tonight. If you're watching live, if you're catching the replay on YouTube, thank you for that as well. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Maybe you'll hit the live stream one of these episodes. Tonight is Wednesday, March the 5th, 2025. And at this very moment, as we are streaming live, we're less than 48 hours away from the 2025 NHL trade deadline on Friday, March the 7th at 3 p.m. The Rangers just lost in overtime to the division-leading Washington Capitals, which is whatever. Neither here nor there. There's Dimitri, tough. Not the worst loss. If not for that 4-16 stretch, would be okay. We're going to talk about that. Justin, could have been worse. Yes, it is. John Peak, power play sucks. Kurt Chanel, sad. Charlie Troy, biggest thing I've noticed without Fox and Kreider is the compete level has increased. We'll talk a little bit about that. The Rangers have already made a few moves. Expected to make at least one more between now and Friday, maybe more. But we'll take a look at the roster really from top down. Talk through what the Rangers might do and also, when they might do it and what they probably won't do. Regardless of what happens this week or the rest of the season, many people believe, and you're starting to hear the talk, with the hockey pundits, that this is going to be a rather consequential summer for the New York Rangers. A lot to talk about with that. A move they did make was to trade Ryan Lindgren and Jimmy Vesey to Colorado. So there's a good amount to unpack there, especially given some of the fan reactions I've seen around Facebook. At the moment, I believe Ottawa won against the Blackhawks and the Rangers, obviously. So the Rangers sit just outside. They're tied for the second wild card again. Neither here nor there. We'll talk that through. But does that mean that the team should be buying at the deadline or selling? Does Adam Fox's injury impact those plans at all? We'll talk that through. We'll discuss the post-contract extension play of Lafreniere and Shesterkin, and if there should be any concern there. Newsflash, probably not, but we'll talk it through. And I'm sure, as always, you wonderful people will throw a couple questions my way, and we can discuss. And that's always fun. So we will go ahead and get it started. The Rangers started this game tonight like they've started with so many games this year, allowing a goal just over a minute. I'm sorry. It's got to stop. It's got to stop. I don't have any other way of saying it other than it's just got to stop. That was the 12th time this season that the Rangers have allowed a goal in the first 2 minutes. 12th. They've played 62 games, so it's basically math majors 1 out of 5. A little Fulton Reed. 20% of games this year, the Rangers allow a goal in the first 2 minutes. It's just insane. Hey, Mike, how are you? Charlie says retool, no rentals, upgrades with term. Tom O'Neill says we lead the league in something. That we do. So after this game, the Rangers are just 5 points back of the New Jersey Devils with a game in hand. I'm pretty sure they still have it. They do. And, listen, with today's news that Jack Hughes is out for the season with a shoulder injury, I mean, I don't know how you feel, but it looks to me that the door is wide open for them to get in. Despite that just god-awful stretch of hockey in November and December, the Rangers appear likely to make the playoffs. Tim Robinson, a Caps fan, joined us from a Caps, a heck of a game. Could have gone either way. Keep pushing to the playoffs. Yeah, I mean, I don't. There's a really close game for both teams. Caps were a lot better this year than they were last year, but it was as if the Rangers were out of place. I thought the Capitals were the better team tonight, and that's okay. I mean, they're the better team right now. So no surprises there. But I thank you for the kind words, Tim. We might just see you in about 6 weeks in the playoffs. Lafreniere played dip. We learned from Zibanejad you don't lose ice time for not showing up. We'll talk about that. So really, the question here is, should the Rangers be buying? Should they be selling? To me, I think that's it's kind of a loaded question, right? Because first off, it's not as if they haven't been active already this season. Chris Drury hasn't exactly sat on his hands here. I don't recall a Rangers team being anywhere near this active in the weeks and months leading up to the deadline. No year comes to mind anyway. But let's just recap where we've been this year. On December 6th, the Rangers traded Jacob Trouba to the Anaheim Ducks for defenseman Urho Vakanainen and a 2025 fourth-round pick. Of note, thank God, the Rangers retained exactly $0 of Jacob Trouba's $8 million this year and next. On December the 18th, the Rangers traded Capo Caco to the Seattle Kraken for defenseman Will Borgen, a 2025 third-round pick, and a 2025 sixth-round pick. They have since extended Will Borgen on a 5-year, $20.5 million deal. So I guess they like what they saw there. 31st of January, Rangers traded Philip Hedl, Victor Mancini, and a conditional 25 first-rounder to Vancouver in exchange for JT Miller and defenseman Eric Brandstrom and Jackson Dorrington. That's worked out pretty well so far. We'll talk about that. Most recently, just this week on the 2nd of March, they traded away Ryan Lindgren and Jimmy Vesey to Colorado for Juuso Parssinen, Calvin DeHaan, a 2025 second, and a 2025 fourth-round pick. So when you look at those moves in aggregate, they moved out 5 roster players and they added 5 roster players. You have a cap dump in Trouba, pretty cut and dry, extremely necessary. I'm not going to re-legislate that tonight. You have a legitimate hockey trade in Kakko, which brought back a defenseman that they obviously like quite a bit. You have a little bit of buying with JT Miller, and not really at a prohibitive cost by any means, given Hedl's health. And I guess a bit of a sell in the Lindgren Vesey deal to Colorado, but arguably the players that they brought back were just fine. And they got back some draft capital in that deal as well. Lots of comments coming in. Let's see. Al, what's up, brother? Jersey has $13 million in space with Hughes and Siegenthal on IR. Yeah, but you're not going to go get a Jack Hughes, Al. So, I mean, like, I don't know what you do with them. He's 20 ply. Pavel, not a fan of Laffy. John Peak, the OT goal summed up Mika's season. One more stride, and he blocks that pass to Wilson. Mitch Joseph runs a great hockey group. We got to check that one out with Mika Blows. Dave says to sell. Not exactly surprised by that. Andre says they should be buyers, period. Mark says they should kind of do both, buy for this year and plan for the future with players with term. John says Drury doing a great job this year. Dave said teams one and done at best. Alex Blanca, kind of a new name there, so welcome aboard. Well, I've always said this was the last year of the Cup window. Since the trades, there's really no rebuild. Thoughts for the next 2 or 3? We'll talk that through. Donald Pratt, again, another name. Chris Drury has got to go now, he says. Worst GM and president ever. We'll talk that through. Barb, love seeing Barb's comments. Why can't Trocheck find the net this year? Well, that's a fair point. I think a lot of guys could do a little bit more of that this year, but they haven't. Let's look at these deals, I guess, in reverse. We'll go most recent to furthest back. So for the Lindgren and Vesey trade, both of these guys were unrestricted free agents. So, both weren't coming back next year. It's very good that Lindgren was not signed here long-term. We've said before, and we will say again, that the parallels between the career of Ryan Lindgren and Dan Girardi, who oddly enough is at the game tonight, in terms of playing style and who they are, is very close. Ryan Lindgren is not going to age well. Same as Dan Girardi did not age well. And I don't think by any means do you look at that Ryan Lindgren, Jimmy Vesey trade as a white flag on the season. I did not perceive it that way at all. I think it was just smart asset management, frankly. Neither player was coming back next year. Vesey's been a healthy scratch a bunch of times this year. If you recall, he had that story in the Post where he's basically saying how he felt he was dying and he needed to go elsewhere. So, okay, That's what you sent out. Yuso Parsonen just turned 24. It's apparently somebody who they've liked for quite a while. He's a center, has some size to him, 6'3", 212, fine with that. Arguably, from a forward perspective, he's a better fit than Vesey, given the center depth on the team. Calvin DeHaan, who is just a steady defensive defenseman, veteran guy, been around. He was originally actually an Islander pick back in 2009 in the first round. It's not going to blow anybody away offensively. He joked about that as far as his hockey DB stats. It's also not his job. He's also a pending UFA, right? So he could theoretically be a deadline flip, but since he's been here, I think he's played pretty well. I think realistically, like the players on both ends of this deal really are at worst a wash for the Rangers, and really, like, they actually might be a win given the fact that Parsons only 24. There's some runway there to his career plus the picks, right? So, good deal there. I don't have any issue at all with that trade. Let's see here. No team scares me except Florida, and Tampa, Mike, just they're loaded. They're loading up right now. Team not talented enough to beat Caps in a 7-game series. Maybe not. Big game coming up on Saturday. George, if you're going to be in the city, I will be at the Blue Shirt Underground viewing party at McHale's in, I think it's 50. I forget exactly where it is. If you Google McHale's in New York, we'll be there most of the afternoon. So that's fun. If you can make it, go ahead. Adam, regardless, you can't deny we've got some heart recently. That's good to see. Alex, longtime follower, first time live stream. Thank you, man. Hey, good to see that. We always appreciate that. I see that lightsaber. I'm a Star Wars guy as well. Gunner, wasn't expecting. I posted on Monday that I was planning to do this. I actually going to do it at 9 p.m. I'm like, oh, there's a game. I can't do it at 9 o'clock. Chris Munch, Lindgren, no more upside. He don't want to hit away. Good moves by Drury. JT Miller, great move. What happens Friday? We're going to talk that through, Chris. We're actually going to go through the whole roster top to bottom, kind of see who's available now, who could be available this summer, things of that nature. Al, no issues with any of the trades this year. I'm just so torn on whether they should be buyers or sellers coming Friday. We know they're not going to win a cup, so it's a tough decision to make for the Rangers front office. Well, look, that's the thing, right, Al? We're going to talk about that later. I don't want to necessarily jump the gun, but I know exactly where you're coming from, from that standpoint. I'll give you a fun fact. The Rangers are 6-0-2 this year without Ryan Lindgren in the lineup. Take that the way any way you want to take that. And I saw so many, I can't believe they traded Ryan Lindgren. I love Ryan Lindgren. I get that. But you have to have some really horrific vision that glasses can't fix just to not see how bad he's been this year, how much he's regressed. And you know what? That's not his fault, right? That's the style of player he is, and that's exactly why it made no sense to give him a contract with any sort of term or money. Like, that just was never going to make sense for the Rangers. And he's not all of a sudden going to get better. I think, and this kind of goes back to the love you saw for Trouba, is that physical play sometimes gets confused with being good defensively. And these two are not the same thing. I'll sit here and tell you that the guy is a terrible defender. I'm not going to sit here and tell you he's not a warrior. He certainly is. Ryan Lindgren is just, look, he plays hurt. You have to respect that. That's all well and good. Just not a great defender. Neither was, Jan Girardi was the same way, but that's my point, right? Like, even if you think Lindgren was still a good defenseman, which frankly, I do not, but if you do, that's okay. He was still an expiring contract. Makes all the sense in the world to move him. And the Rangers regain draft capital and at least one useful player in the future in the process. So, I'm pretty happy all around there. Anthony, this one hurts. He hits the Caps. Lindgren, worst comps in the league last 2 years. Thank you for your service. Yeah. Dimitri, we're talking about Adam Fox in a little bit. That's I got a lot of people. I got a lot of, what's the Seinfeld thing? I got a lot of things to break out with you people. A lot of problems with you people. We'll talk a bit about the players who might be traded. And there's going to be some names that we'll discuss. And you'll be like, no, can't trade that guy. I love that guy. I get it. But I think we need to just step back and remind ourselves that we root for laundry. We root for an ever-changing group of human beings known as the New York Rangers. And we all want the New York Rangers to win, no matter who the human beings are that are wearing the colors. Like, would you rather they keep your faves and the team loses? You do at some point have to take your emotion out of it. The attachments to the players. Sure, it is not fun to see Brian Leetch get traded on his birthday. It is not fun to see Henrik Lundqvist getting bought out. This is a business, especially now in a cap world. We did a blue. I swear to God, I had nothing to drink today. We did a BlueTruth blast after the JT Miller trade, and we said at the time that deal just wasn't cost prohibitive, right? In Hedel, you have a guy who is just one hit away from potentially never playing again, which is extremely unfortunate, but that's reality. In Mancini, you had a player who had a cup of coffee, looked okay, not great. Maybe he's a player someday, but we're not really in the business of waiting. And the pick is top 13 protected, right? So they think they're going to be better next year. So whatever. JT's been fantastic since he's been here. Fit what they were looking for to a T. If you want to have some concerns, the concern that I would have is that JT is going to be 32 years old soon, and he's got 5 more years left on his deal. His deal and Zibanejad's deal run parallel to each other. Zibanejad costs like $500,000 more. It creates an interesting dynamic, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but I was unhappy with that deal at all. I mean, even if it's not so much for this season, I know people like to complain about how they traded Miller away back when, and they shouldn't have done that. All well and good. But I think one thing we should all agree on is JT Miller never becomes JT Miller if he was in New York the whole time. I think the experience in Tampa and especially in Vancouver, like he really blossomed into the player that he is today. And maybe he went an intern somewhere else, but now he's back in New York as at a robust 31 years old. He just doesn't become that player. He just doesn't, right? So again, I'm good with it. I'm good with the deal. I'm not worried about cost because the cost was not prohibitive. I mean, really, would you have felt comfortable locking up Hedel to a long-term deal given where he is right now? I don't think you can. I don't think you can. And we'll see what Vancouver does. Now, Vancouver has some, free agency issue with the taxes up there, but again, I was fine with it. The Kakko deal. It is what it is. He had his opportunity here. The Rangers, to their discredit, did not correctly at all develop him. He's been playing better in Seattle with some proper ice time and, proper placement in the lineup. Good for him. They like Will Borgen. Given that they extended him about 2 weeks after he came here, clearly they like Will Borgen. And they got draft picks too. I think this far into his career, you have to look at Kakko, the player, and not Kakko, the second overall pick. Given that they were moving off of Lindgren, Borgen's a really valuable piece, and clearly they like him to have given him that contract right then and there. Trouba should have moved last summer, whatever. No one can convince me otherwise that the drama he brought into the room this year didn't have an impact on that awful stretch of play in November, December. He's gone, no money involved, bye. I'm happy with that. So when you look at the deals that they have done this year in totality, they sent out 5 roster guys. They added 5 roster guys, as well as adding a 2, a 3, 2 4s, and a 6. So they replenished their draft capital nicely in those deals. Comments coming in. Mitch, having Meek out for most overtime is a joke. I could not agree with you more. I think we're on the same page with that. Ken Oliger wants to move Laffy out. We'll talk about that. Tom O'Neill, the name on the front's hell about more important than the name on the back. They're one of my favorite movies. John says Laffy is JT Miller 6 years ago. That would be a hell of a career arc. I would take that. Anthony, a big fan of the Sam Carrick signing. We'll talk about that a little bit too. Vancouver certainly is a mess. Yes, I think they kept the wrong guy. Right? I think JT's got more goals than Patterson's got shots. Is that the stat that I saw? Rich, what's up, brother? Said, wow, good evening. Glad I opened Facebook accidentally. Look, I posted on Monday. We were doing the show just so people would know. Says, it seems like that's what the organization runs. Draft picks never grow here. Elsewhere, they are beasts. Well, again, They do not have a good track record, Rich, of developing their draft picks. So that part I completely get. So as far as, what would they buy? What would they sell? Right? Like what does this mean for what they might do? So I thought that we could tonight kind of really just go through the roster top to bottom and talk through it, almost like a pre-trade deadline state of the team. Kind of look at everybody and say, is this somebody who we think could be traded by Friday, could be an off-season move, or somebody who we think is part of the core moving forward? And that core is going to change. That core is very much in flux. We've been talking on this show about the ages of 3 guys and how like their window was like right here. If they didn't win, there's going to be a problem. And we're pretty much at that point for the most part. So we're going to talk through all these guys and just kind of, again, we'll go through the forwards. I have them in order a cap hit and just talk through the idea of, hey, what is this guy? Where are you going moving forward with this player? And we'll start with the most expensive player on the team, Artemi Panarin. Now, this is really interesting, right? So Panarin is 33. He'll be 34 in October. He's got 1 year left on his deal next season at a little over 11.6. It's got a full no move. If the Rangers are in a bit of a retool here, which it feels like they're kind of doing, right? They are turning over the roster little by little, but they're doing it pretty, well, I shouldn't say little by little. I think I'm actually kind of aggressively doing it. I think that you absolutely have to consider what Panarin can get them in a trade. Now, that's not something that gets done by Friday, clearly. No way. But I think this summer, Panarin's going to come up a lot in discussion, especially if the Rangers are willing to eat a little bit of that cap to get a deal done. If they're positioning themselves for, say, 26, 27, to have as much cap space as possible in the summer of 2026, when a couple of big name players are going to be free, potentially hitting the market. You may not know this. Connor McDavid right now is a free agent in the summer of 2026, as is Jack Eichel, just to name a few. You would have to think that Panarin at 34, 35 is not going to be re-signed. So if you're not going to sign him, even if you are, and you can really restock by moving him, that has to be a real possibility and a real discussion. Again, this is not happening by Friday, but this is going to start to get very loud this summer. And if you can get assets back for Panarin and then use that money to sign somebody else, that's a win-win. And I love Artemi Panarin. I've been a Panarin guy since he was in Chicago, but he's getting up in age. Lee Cooper, what's up, brother? Do you think Kreider goes by the deadline? Kreider's 3 names down on my list. We're going to get to him, I promise. Chad, I know they're commonplace, but these no movement clauses are brutal. They are, but they're table stakes, right? If you are an Artemi Panarin, if you are a Connor McDavid, if you are a fill in the blank, what you don't want is to be traded to Calgary or Winnipeg, something like that, like some outpost somewhere where your taxes are higher. You want control over that. I don't think that it's so much like you can't move him. It's just he wants some say into where he goes, which is fine. I mean, you star players. I mean, I don't, it's never going to be like the NBA where these guys like basically dictate those trades. But again, I just think that they want that flexibility. Sean Abrams, 34 is on the downside of normal career. His stature won't help as he gets older. I agree. Like, I think that there's some there's some influx of movement to the core of the team. Rich, do you think they talk to Artemi and tell him that if he can, so they can't restructure? There is no restructuring in hockey. Those contracts are locked in. Locked in. Peter, how do you trade a player with a no movement clause? Easy. He waives it. You talk to him and say, where would you go? If you make me a deal to go to LA. Okay, we'll talk to LA. Will you go to LA? Great. That's it. They just waived the no movement clause. Trouba waived his no trade. So it just, the player has it. It just gives him the protection. So if you go to him and say, listen, we want to go a different direction. We want to send you where you want to get to. What do you want to do? He's like, all right, well, I'll be open to the following. Or he's not. I mean, whatever. That's his prerogative. He negotiated it, but you have to think that, with a year left on his deal, he might want to go somewhere that maybe a team has a better chance to win. And if the Rangers eat some of that money on him, I think it's absolutely doable. Next victim. Mika Zibanejad. All right. So if you follow the page, everyone loves to get on me because I like to find players that I think are problems, and then I start to, attack them a little bit. And everyone's like, oh, you're so mean to the multi-million-dollar professionals. Oh, tear, sniffle, shut up. In my opinion, Mika Zibanejad's contract is now the largest problem on the team since Trouba is gone. There's 5 more years on Mika Zibanejad's deal at a robust $8.5 million. Oh, with a no move. Not to beat a dead horse, but we hated that deal when it was signed. We wanted Jack Eichel. We maintained that viewpoint. It's ironic that tonight is the 5-year anniversary of Mika's 5-goal game against Washington. Needless to say, he's not that player anymore. He looked rather terrible to start the season, and he's been moved now from center to wing. He's played better as of late. It's all well and good. But the Rangers, if they're going to go swinging big, I just don't think you can have that 8.5 on the team next year. Too much money. Already moved away from his position at center. I don't see it working. You've seen what he is when things go wrong. He's not the strongest person up here. I don't know he's going to age gracefully. In fact, I would probably guess that he's not. And that's not something that the Rangers are really in a position to withstand. Since JT has come on board, Mika's been a lot better. The bar was low for that, admittedly. But I'll credit where credit's due. He's been a lot better. Maybe that resuscitates some of his value, makes it easier to move him. And yes, he has a no movement clause. I get that. But like I said, that's just so him and guys like him don't just get sent off to some high tax province in Canada like Edmonton or Calgary or Vancouver where they don't want to go without saying okay. They just want some control over that. He wants to, as you saw with Trouba, if the player is amenable to the destination, he'll go. But this, like Panarin, is 150% a summer discussion. It's not happening in the next 2 days. You're not going to find someone to take on 5 years at 8.5 by Friday. That's just not going to happen. Sean said, not sure, but get him out. Soft turnover machine. Chris agrees. Dead weight the next 5 years. He isn't called Mika with the dry hair for nothing. JT's making Mika play hockey now. Kurt said Mika couldn't even get it up for his national team. Rich said he's not going to trade. He's not going to age well. And I agree. Once Mika loses a few more steps, his speed and stick handling, he's done. He isn't you can slap from that spot. Even though, Rich, he was trying to do that for a very long time. And then it didn't materialize. So, again, I just think that's going to be a summer discussion. JT Miller, look, nothing to say here. Miller's here, right? Obviously, there's no need to go into more detail here. They just got him. He's been excellent. He fits exactly what they wanted. He's coming into tonight. He had 7 goals and 7 assists in 11 games. I don't think he got a point tonight, as far as I can recall. He's been awesome. That's been great. We can talk about the idea of, hey, the age and everything else. Look, that's fair. Bigger problems than that. Like, let's cross that bridge eventually. This will got people up in arms, and that's life. Chris Kreider. Chris Kreider is an all-time New York Ranger. Chris Kreider will have his number 20 retired eventually. It's still a business. Chris Kreider has 2 more years at 6.5 and a 15-team no trade. He will be 34 years of age at the end of April. Visper Cogliano of USA Today reported this week that it seems to him, based on his sources, that Kreider and the team are going to go their separate ways at some point here. Now, he's currently injured, so I don't think a deal gets done by Friday. I just don't. I don't see that. But I don't think he starts next season here. Brian Leach got traded. Wayne Gretzky was traded twice. If the team is serious about turning over this roster to a new page and a new group, the three names I have mentioned, Kreider, Zibanejad, and Panarin, the core guys of the old guard should be the main guys on the way out. This does not diminish at all what Chris Kreider has meant to the Rangers, what he's done for the Rangers. Like I said, nobody else ever wear number 20. But you can't run a team on nostalgia and what players used to be. So no, I don't think it happens by Friday, largely due to injury. But maybe summer, I think the noise here starts to get really loud that a move gets made. Anthony says Kreider will go this summer. I don't know. He's not playing. I mean, he's not even skating, I think. But I don't know. I don't think he's going to have a miraculous recovery. I will say this. Well, okay, so Mark Brown with the conspiracy theories said he's just being held out for trade reasons, and the team said that fans would go crazy. Let's see. Maybe you're right. I don't know that that's the case. I think that would have got out by now, Mark. Like, I think that information would have been leaked by somebody. But I don't know. Richard also feels the same as being sad to protect his health. I don't know. We'll see. Pat Hoffman, brother, how are you? It's time to build look towards the future. I agree. Peter, Brian, you and I both agreed at the time that if you remember, Rangers had no choice but to sign him and suffer the consequences of the last 3 years. It is what it is. Well, they did, Peter, because they couldn't pony up to go get Jack Eichel. And I'm gonna stay on that soapbox. I don't care what if the story was that Buffalo wanted more. Okay, give them more. Jack Eichel is a legit number one center. That was one of a couple moves that you could think back, like, hey, why didn't this work out? That's why it didn't work out. Because they didn't make the move. They weren't aggressive when they needed to be aggressive. As far as I'm concerned, if they go get Jake, and I told this to Patrick on Monday when him and I were at the Ranger game together against the Islanders. If they trade for Jake Gensel, they win a Stanley Cup last year. They had no scoring. That's what they were missing. They just didn't get aggressive at the right time. He's been skating with the scratches from what I read. Who wants Kreider at 6.5, injured and aging? I think that he's movable. I think he's movable at that number. That number is actually not insane. Brian, who is a Ranger that's one of your least favorite players, past or present? Jacob Trouba really got on my nerves very quickly for being paid a lot of money and not producing. That's a problem. It's easier to tell me who I love Adam Graves. I just met Mike Richter on Monday at an event, which was really, really cool. It's never been 94 again. Currently, Eichel just scored a goal. Speak of the devil. Love Jack Eichel. Continuing on down the list of players as we're just going through state of the team. Vincent Trocheck. Trocheck's been a very important player since he's been here. He has 4 more years at 5.625. His no movement clause gets done at the end of this season. It becomes a 12-team no trade. And then a 10-team no trade the year after, and a 6-team no trade. I don't even know what that is. The last 2 years. It was 6 teams. Now, he's 31, so he's not exactly a spring chicken either. But given the team's center depth, I think Trocheck is here at least for next year. We'll see after that. Now, he's somebody that if you made him available, I think he would fetch a heavy return. He's been a clutch player for the Rangers. Again, everybody's kind of off this year, so you really can't look at it like that. But big playoff performer last year, has really, really played very well for this team. So for me, again, I mean, you want to test the market, you can. I just don't think that that's where they go. Like, I think they have other people that they're worried about moving. I don't necessarily think that it's him, but never hurts to find out what the value is. Riley Smith is 100% going to get traded by Friday. The reports, there's a number of teams in on him. And listen, if they can get back a second round pick, that's basically what they gave Pittsburgh to get him. So it's a wash. They certainly should be able to get that, given where the market where it is. Again, pending UFA, it's obvious he's getting traded. They've bubble wrapped him for a few days now. This is happening. All we're waiting for on this one is the comp. So, he was the next in the line of attempted right wingers for 93 and 20. Didn't work out that great. Okay. I hope you haven't either. It ain't just him. Not at all. It ain't just him. But no, he's as good as gone. And that's okay. I'm good with that. Leslie Lafreniere. We're going to talk in a bit about Lafreniere's plays after the contract, but there's basically a 0% chance that Lafreniere is traded by Friday. I would say it's a non-zero, but close to zero chance in the offseason. Very unlikely. It's not zero. Anything can happen in the offseason, but it's not happening before Friday. So that's a pretty safe bet. You're right, Mark, but they're 17th in Canada now. Maybe we'll go to one of them. Toronto. Who knows? Sam Carrick. Carrick's been a nice player for them. Fourth line center, fills the role nicely, scored a goal tonight. I don't think they trade him. Wouldn't really bother me if they traded him, but I think he's been a nice little player for them. So I just don't think that they move him, especially not by Friday. Don't really see it. It's not as if they're out of the playoff hunt just because they got 1 point tonight, not two. Brett Berard, I don't think is traded midseason. In the summer, the summer is going to be a massive who knows, guys. I mean, like, the problem with the summer for this team, and where I think what they're gonna do is, like, you're gonna have your Twitter notifications on, and every single time one comes up, your heart's gonna go up like this, and then like, okay. Whenever Molly Walker tweets something, or Larry Brooks, or Vince, or Peter Ball, like, oh god, okay. It's gonna be that kind of summer. Again, not traded now, probably is a piece that they like, similar to Brennan Othman. Now, I think that Othman, since he wasn't traded at last year's deadline when he should have been for Jake Gensel, go to my grave on that, it means they've kind of hitched their wagon to him a bit. I don't think he's a top line guy personally. I think he's a middle six guy as a ceiling, and that's okay. Not a deadline risk for me. The offseason is the offseason. I think we're going to see a couple different things happen in the offseason. Adam Edstrom is still out with an injury. It was a 2 to 3 month injury, so I would surely think that he's off the table at this point. Kreider 6.5, Trocheck 5.5, both very movable players. Half teams in the league would pay for them. I agree. I completely agree. Barb, I do not think this trade Lafreniere, given too much young talent. We're going to talk about that. Ken, to be fair, play has dropped a bit since the contract. We'll talk that through. Rich Salvati, Laf was playing great prior to JT. Ever since they switched Panarin off that line, he's gone down, hasn't gotten it back. He will produce again. I'm not worried about him. We'll talk about it. I'm not going to get too far ahead of myself, but we will talk about that. Will Cooley. Cooley has been fantastic for them. Now, when we say we're looking for middle six scoring with some grit, like, that's Will Cooley to a T. Like, that's exactly what he is. And we made the case a couple of months back that had they taken Will Cooley at 7th overall, where they took Lias Anderson, everyone would be fine with that. Now, you may recall, maybe you don't, I'm here to remind you, that the Rangers traded Lias Anderson to LA for the second round pick, which the Rangers used on Will Cooley. Perfect fit. You would hope that JT Miller rubs off on him a little bit, and he's a core piece of the next core. Will Cooley is going absolutely nowhere. I mean, that's a pretty. You want to buy a jersey, like you want to buy yourself a jersey that not of the star players. Get a Will Cooley. I think that I'm going to go on record and say that's a safe jersey to get. I'm very picky with my jersey. I have one. That's a safe jersey to get. Arthur Kaliev. I was a fan of. Looking around. I was a fan of them getting Kaliev off waivers. I think that the coaching staff seems kind of lukewarm on him. He's got offensive talent, always had a good shot. Local kid, I think Staten Island. I just can't imagine the fact that he went through waivers that there's much of a trade market for him. So I don't think he's at any risk of getting moved. Matt Rempe, without getting into details, let's just say I don't expect Rempe to be traded, and I'm just going to leave it at that. I'm well aware that he has a good amount of extremely ardent supporters. It's great. He's not getting traded. I'm going to move on before I get people upset. Because that's probably where it's going to go if I continue talking about Matt Rempe. Johnny Brodzinski, if the right offer came along, I would not be opposed at all to moving Brodzinski. I just don't see the right offer coming along. So whatever. He's a useful player in the role that he has, a bit of a Swiss Army knife, kind of plays any bottom six role you need him to play, and that there is value to that. He could be useful for another team too, but I just don't think. I mean, what would he get? 3? Yeah. Doesn't really move the needle for me. I just don't really. Rempe has been way better the last few games. Okay, I'm not going to disagree with you on that. It's just, look, this is just me talking, right? When I go to the Garden and I see Rempe jerseys, like I just like I cringe a little bit. I'm like, why? I don't know. Just my 2 cents. Just my 2 cents. Joe, how are you, brother? Johnny V would be part of a package. Yeah, I don't think I mean, that's just moving contracts, Tom. Like, you just gotta get to 50. You gotta move them out. Last forward on my list is Parsonen, who is 24. He just came from Colorado in the deal with the Lindgren Vesey deal. He's making like nothing. It's great in the cap league. He's not likely a flip. The team has apparently liked him for quite a while. So, like, he could be a third line center moving forward. Like, that's kind of what his projection could be. I like the deal from them getting him. So, like, I just think they're going to see that through. On to the defense. So, for one, Adam Fox is injured. So, for no other reason than Adam Fox is injured, he's not getting traded. Adam Fox has a no movement clause, which kicks in on July 1st for the next 2 seasons. Then it's a half the league no trade for 2 seasons, and then that's that. He has 4 years left on his deal. Every time I see someone suggest that Adam Fox should be traded, it takes every ounce of me not to respond violently, verbally. Just to be clear, Adam Fox is an elite point-producing defenseman. At the time that he got hurt on February 25th in that 5-1 drubbing of the Islanders, Adam Fox was tied for 4th in the league in points by a defenseman. In a year where everyone would probably agree it's a down year for Adam Fox. So, when I see people talk about their perception that Adam Fox doesn't defend well, respectfully, I don't think they see the forest for the trees. The highest paid defensemen in hockey are point producers. There are 21 defensemen in the NHL who make $8 million or more. And they're all point producers, except one. And you know who that one is. Not going to go there. If the Rangers were to make Adam Fox available, there would probably be 31 teams that would have interest. There would be no shortage of suitors for Adam Fox. I don't know what people expect him to do exactly. Do they expect him to hit people? Does Erik Karlsson hit people? Like we understand that the Norris Trophy for the best defenseman generally goes to a top point producer. Right? I don't get it. I never will. Adam Fox is a massive foundational piece for this team. It's a down year, and he's still that good, and he's still producing at that clip. And I know there was a video going around where someone, I forget, one of the defense, some no name in hockey said they love matching up against Adam Fox in the playoffs. Yeah, okay. Well, you know who his partner in the playoffs generally was? Okay. Stud, not getting traded. Just stop, please. Stop. Adam Fox is in decline. No, he's not. How? Why? Why? How is he in decline, John? John, he was yeah, he's in decline. He was 4th in the league in points when he got hurt by a defenseman. If that's decline, give me decline all day. I will take decline. Chad, I am an extremely judgmental jersey guy. Yes. Yes, I am. I don't even hide that. I am a jersey snob. It's bad. You know. Rich, everyone wants Fox to lead the team in points and goals. Expectations are way too high. He does what he's supposed to do. Yes. And he does it elite way. Very, very talented. I mean, just the way he sees the game. Look, is he a little slow on his feet? Yeah, probably. But he makes up for it how quick the brain goes. Plays fast, may not skate fast. Fox and Jones are alike. I agree with that, right? We'll talk about Jones in a second. But there's a lot, yes, like there's a lot of stylistic comparisons. Yeah. No, jersey, Tom, hockey jerseys. I have not actually, I thought I had more than I did. So I told my wife that I got to add more, and she just rolled her eyes at me. Speaking of eye rolling. Peter, I'm not a huge fan of Fox, but he is not, nor should he go anywhere else. Every team needs a Fox. I mean, look, do you know what you can get for him in the deal? I mean, honestly. And why? So, yeah, I mean, you might get a bunch of draft picks. Hey, one might become Adam Fox. It just doesn't, again, it's just not for me. I don't know. I love Adam Fox. I think you guys are nuts. Now this one, there'll be some different opinions on this one. Keandre Miller. First and foremost, I do not believe the Rangers trade Keandre Miller by the deadline. Just put that out there right now. I think what is a valid view, and he played great tonight, by the way. What is a valid view of the situation is that Miller has regressed from last season. It is a contract year, and there is the distinct possibility that he may price himself out of New York. Factually. He continues to have tremendous offensive upside. His defense has regressed at points this year. Again, RFA at the end of the season. Not even by Friday, but depending on how the offseason goes, like if they can't get to terms on a deal, could be a trade. Could he be someone who is offer sheeted and the Rangers get picks? I don't know. I guess we'll see that. I wonder if Miller coming back next year is impacted by any other moves the Rangers make on their defense, whether that's trade or free agency. The Rangers have 3 starting defense from the beginning of the year: Miller, Fox, and Schneider. It's going to be a big summer story. Right now, nothing of note. Again, now, to be fair, I think we'd all agree Miller has improved when he got away from that anchor he used to play with. There are lapses, sure, and there's always room for improvement, but I still think the upside is there. So I think that's a very interesting story to watch in the offseason. Everyone needs to mail a different player's jersey to Brian. Now, Rich, I have very distinct. I only get jerseys of homegrown Rangers. Adam Fox counts. I only break that rule for greatness. I have a Panarin. Obviously, I have a Messier, right? And I mean, Messier is a legendary Ranger. Who else? Yogs, obviously. But again, like we're talking, like I'll never get a Zibanejad. I have 3 or 4 Kreiders. I have a list somewhere. I have Shesterkins, and I have of the current roster. Like I have a Cooley, and that player, Laffy, Shesterkin. Like you know what I mean. So, like for example, even if the Rangers went and got Jack Eichel, and I love Jack Eichel, I would probably not get a Jack Eichel jersey. If that makes sense. Again, it's all just it's me. It's all me. Anthony, see, I just like Miller. Then he shows the potential some games. See, that's the thing. And you know what? You're right, Anthony. Is like that's the kind of guy that they'll move from and he'll go blow up somewhere. Like that's always that fear with him because you see it in flashes with him. Jones can play both sides. That's a plus. Yep. Dave says that Miller's at peak value right now. I don't know that. You think this is peak value? Why would it be peak value? I disagree on peak value. Value's there. I disagree on peak value. Miller is a head case. You have to have a heavy defenseman. You keep Fox. He's a physical defenseman to handle the role. That's fine. Charlie, I don't disagree with you. But Lindgren was never really that, right? Because Lindgren was played above his size. So you need a defenseman with size. Like, is that EJ Emery eventually? I don't know. Can that be Keandre Miller? They keep trying it. I don't know. Again, I'm just saying that there's a lot of moves still to be made on the defense. Robert Broderick, with Fox playing, can the Rangers play Jones as well? See, that's the thing, right? I'm going to talk about Jones in a minute, but I think Fox being on the team puts a hard ceiling on Jones. All right, that was Keandre. Will Borgen. Clearly not traded Will Borgen. I mean, they just traded for him and they gave a 5-year extension. So, I mean, he's played nicely. Nice player. Like I'm a fan of what he brings to the team. So I'm good there. I was not a fan of trading Kakko, but I think it was a hockey trade. It wasn't just a talent dump. I think that we feel better about Will Borgen today than we did the day the deal was made. I think that's a fair assessment. Braden Schneider's not going anywhere. He signed next year for 2-2. He has an RFA with Arbrights after that. He's 23. Look, I was critical of this draft pick, but they hit on it. I thought they needed a center. I thought they should have taken Connor Zary, who's doing well in Calgary. Now they're here nor there. It's worked out. Kid's been good. Long-term Ranger, core type player. I'm good. We're good with Braden Schneider. Great name too. It's my son's name. Urho Vakanainen has been a nice little addition, right? 26. He's pending RFA. I would not mind him coming back, being a bottom pair guy for this team. Shouldn't be expensive. You may remember he was a first-round pick of Boston's in 2017. He went in the Hampus Lindholm trade to Anaheim. The pedigree is there, as you can tell. It's been a good get. You know, the fact that the Rangers moved Jacob Trouba, didn't have to pay a dime, and then got like an asset back is like witchcraft. As far as I'm concerned, right? So, yeah, you know, I mean, I think that's. Dave says he's a peak value because he sucks. He's playing decent right now. Okay, that doesn't mean it's peak value. That's okay. I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is like that's value. Peak value would be like he goes on a tear and all of a sudden, you know, you got that. Kurt Miller has size and skating, doesn't seem as defensively aware. How am I hear about his upside? I'm sure he's been coached to death. That is a fair point. I think that, yeah, upside only lasts so long. Promise only is there until it's not. Brian Gazzara, a Flyers fan, says Lawton and Risto for the Rangers goalie. I'm going to go ahead and respectfully decline that offer. Scott Lawton will be traded by Friday, and they'll probably be happy with their return. Rasmus Ristolainen is a void, a black hole. He's not good. He's overpaid. That trade was terrible. Let's go Rangers. Chris Munch. So the Friday prediction, a few draft picks make the best of a busy summer. Well, let's talk about that. I don't know what they're doing. I personally, I think they're done. Like, I think there's two guys that I want to talk about. The goalies are not moving. Let me just say it right there. They're not trading the goaltenders. Pretty clear? Okay. Any agreement, disagreement? No? Good. But we'll talk about that in a second. Zach Jones. So the problem with Zach Jones, now he's going to have a lot of opportunity to get power play time with Fox out. I think he can be a player. But and somebody else mentioned this, is I think that what he does and his skill set is kind of duplicative on this team because you have Adam Fox. He's a pending RFA, so the Rangers control his rights. I would not be opposed to moving him in the right deal, but I do think the offensive upside is there. He can play both sides. He's not a must keep. If the right deal is there and it makes sense, I'm fine. But I don't think it's a by Friday thing. We'll see. I thought he played really well tonight. He had the assist on Panarin's goal. So, no worries there. And then last but not least is Calvin DeHaan, who has played only 3 games here. He's been really good. He's a pending UFA. If someone wants to overpay for him, by all means, you take it and you run. He'll be 34 in May. Maybe he'd want to hang around for a low dollar figure. Who knows? But I don't think he's looked out of place at all. And arguably, I would make the case he's been a better defenseman than Lindgren. Maybe that's just role and everything else, but he's been fine. I have no concerns. I mean, DeHaan's been really good. Dylan Garand being traded, that would be a huge mistake. Well, I don't think they trade Dylan Garand. However, John, Shesterkin signed forever. So I think Garand's not going to want to be here. Ken said, wouldn't shock me to see Quickie get traded? It would shock me to see him. Why? He don't want to go anywhere. Why? For what? Why would he just sign? He wants to be here. He was a Ranger fan growing up. Super happy here. He's not going anywhere. Power play 2 needs a quarterback. Fair. I just think, again, like you need some size in the defense. When you have 2 undersized guys like that, like I think it's just hard, personally. I don't know. I like the player. I just think you have Adam Fox. So I'll keep Adam Fox. So, that's kind of where we are right now, right? I think now, again, there's the conspiracy thoughts on Kreider. We'll let that play out. Realistically, I think their big moves are done for this season. Yeah, they'll trade Riley Smith. That's fine. But I don't know how busy they'll be outside of that, right? From the buying perspective, they don't have a 1. The 1's kind of locked up. So you got a 2 back. You maybe can flip the 2. You can maybe flip the 2 you get for Riley Smith if you get a 2 for Riley Smith, but like that keeps you out of the big game hunting. I mean, if you saw the deal Tampa made tonight where they gave up 2 1s and a 2, like it is a seller's market. I don't necessarily know the Rangers should be out there aggressively buying in that market. I don't think it's in their best interest. It's not good to have Fox and Jones on the same team. Well, see, that's what I'm trying to say is Jones will have, like, if you move Jones to a team that has some size back on the back end, but needs a puck mover, makes sense. That's kind of where I think that could be, so I'm okay with that. A fair question would be, with the injury to Fox, do plans change at all? No matter what you thought. If you thought they were a buyer, does that make them a seller? Kind of where I think the Devils probably should go. Now with Jack Hughes' injury. He is set to miss some time, but the story is that he'll be back for the stretch run. That sounds to me like it's 2 weeks or so. You'd think, based on that, I don't think anything changes. It's not as if they have a ton to sell anyway at the moment, and you want to get more people in the market for your guys. So I think the plan remains the same. And I think it was Mark who said this. I think they'll buy what makes sense, and I think they'll sell what makes sense. I just think that's the smart play. So there has been some angst in the base about the play of Alexis Lafreniere and Igor Shesterkin following their contract extensions earlier this year. Lafreniere signed a 7-year, $52.15 million extension October 26th. Since then, he has 9 goals and 17 assists. He had 57 points in 82 games this year, which would be 42 points at this point if he maintained that pace, which we all thought he would surpass. He's 8 points short of that currently. Shesterkin signed, as everybody knows, 8 years, $92 million on December the 8th. His numbers are also down this year. His goals against are up It was 286 coming into the game tonight versus 258 last year and 248 the year before. Save percentage is down, 906 into tonight, 913 last year, 916 the year before that. He came into tonight with 21 losses, which is a career worst in a season, and we're only March the 5th. In both cases, is that reason for concern? I would say no, it's not. I think that there are people, I think I saw a couple comments to this effect, that people believe as soon as players get paid, that they get fat and happy. With the whole team this year, it's just been a weird year. We'll get into more of that in a second. I would not get overly concerned in either case. For me, Laffy and Shesty are core pieces of the next core. Adam Fox, also in that group. Will Cooley, guy like that, in that group. Gabe Perreault better be a core piece. You know, we have these discussions a lot on this show. You know, we talk about cap, talk about CBA. I think the business of hockey is very important to discuss. And I think it bears repeating that everyone gets enamored with the dollars that the player makes. And the dollars don't matter in a vacuum. They matter as a percentage of the salary cap, right? The salary cap is going up really nicely over the next few years. So the impact of what Igor makes as far as a percentage of what you can spend in a year will continually decline. Same for Lafreniere. So again, those deals are signed at a moment in time. It's not as if it's not as if Igor signed for 14% and then next year the cap's up 5 million. He still makes 14%. No, the percentage of the cap goes down. So you have to look at things in context. When you start talking about, oh, why I wouldn't pay him 12, I'd pay him 10. What does either number actually mean in and of itself? Look at the NFL. These guys make $50, $60 million, right? Oh, a hockey player can't pay that. Well, what's the cap? What's your total expenditure? What's your percentage? I'm a numbers guy. I'm a CFP. So look at it from that standpoint. I just think that that's how you have to look at it. Joe, is Kreider being hurt or being shopped? So I think he's hurt. A couple people think he's being shopped. I guess we're going to see by Friday. Notice I didn't mention K'Andre Miller as part of the next core. Mark, I think he's going to price himself out of the deal. I think he's going to make too much money to sign here. That's my honest. I think it's going to be a contentious negotiation that I think is going to result in K'Andre Miller being moved. It's not because of the player. I like the player. I like the flashes. I get everyone wants more consistency. I agree. I just think he's going to want $6-7 million a year, and I think they're not going to give it to him. And I get that why they wouldn't give it to him. They're way too much risk, way too much inconsistency to give that kind of money. Not denying his talent. Leffy worries me. Yes, the team has been. Yes, correct. And I think what you mean by garbage is the fact that they were both here. I mean, again, look, I am very happy both players are gone, Anthony. Let me be very, very clear. I am thrilled both players are gone. I'm just upset it took as long as it did, frankly. Joe, who do you think goes next? Riley Smith, 1,000%. Easy. Done. That's happening. I just think that anything bigger than that happens in July. I don't think it happens now. I just think there's not enough time. So, you know. Tom, brother, how are you? Has Mika turned a corner? Or are you still done? I'm indifferent, but you're right. The way he skates sometimes is infuriating. He is the biggest liability they have. It is, to me, the worst contract on the team. If him playing better opens up a trade opportunity, that's great. He has to go. I don't see how you can bring him back. I don't. You know, now he's a winger. You didn't sign to be a winger. That was not the discussion. So I don't. He's just like, I knew that the back half of that deal was going to be a problem. We just got into the back half of that deal much sooner than I would have liked. So they got to get a way out. They'll figure it out. You know, he'll go somewhere he wants to go. Maybe the Rangers eat some money. I don't know, but I don't think it's I don't see him back next year. So when you look at this team, what do you make of them? Since the start of 2025, the Rangers are tied for third in the entire NHL with 15 wins. The Rangers have 29 regulation wins, as in no shootout, no overtime, just three periods. That is 10th best in the league, despite the bad stretch. That is just 2 behind Cup contenders Carolina and Colorado and Toronto and Tampa. So the Rangers don't win their games at 3-on-3 or in a shootout. Okay. To put that in perspective, the Winnipeg Jets have 41 wins, most in the league. 34 of them are regulation. If the Rangers weren't complete hot garbage ass for 6 weeks, they would be in great shape from a record standpoint. You can discuss if that matters, but I'm just from a pure record standpoint. They went on a 4-15 stretch from November 21st until December 30th. If they went 9-10, they have 10 more points and they're tied with Carolina. Actually, they'd be ahead of Carolina now. It's just wild. It is what it is. And the crazy part is that, as we've said, I've been saying this forever, they have been a goaltender and a power play for a long time. This year, the power play is 20th in the league. 20th. Last year, it was 3rd. Year before that, 7th. Year before that, 4th. So that's a departure, number 1. Their goals against this year is 18th. Last year, it was 7th. Year before, 4th. Year before, 2nd. So as strange as it is, they're winning games in ways that they have not won games in the past. So if the goaltending and the power play actually comes around a little bit, like, it's kind of crazy to think about that like that's what's holding them back in a way. Penalty kill's been fine. Stay true to form. 4th best in the league 30 years ago. No issue. Well, that's goaltending. That's still working. They are just a tough team to read. They are as Jekyll and Hyde a team as I've seen. That Buffalo game coming out of 4 Nations was just atrocious in every way, shape, and form. Like, there was nothing at all like redeemable about that game. And that's happened a few times this year. Maybe not to that extent, but you get this just awful game with no energy and no juice, and they look dead. And those are the games that are why they're sitting right now tied for the second wild card, because that's what's held them back. Says they'll make the playoffs, lose round 1. We can make a noise if we pass the Devils. Still blame Mika and Kreider for playing like crap. They should be buyers. Adam Fox on PK. That's why we're still number 4. Everybody loves to beat up on Adam Fox. You want to see a bad hockey team? Take Adam Fox off this team. Truthfully, roster versus roster, I think this group of players is better than the group of players they had last year. JT Miller in and of itself. I mean, there's other things, but that specific, plus no Trubo, obviously. Last year, again, as they've been, they were a power play and a goaltender. Because, like, this year, they've just been average at best, and barring that stretch of just ass hockey for 6 weeks, where there's awful, they've really been all right. Now, having said that, to be really clear, me saying that the team is better doesn't mean anything as far as the playoff goes. They means absolutely nothing. They may get in and get swept. That's not what I'm saying. They certainly could. You can't say with any level of certainty or conviction that they're going to make noise in the playoffs because, as I said, they are, as Jekyll and Hyde, a team as you can see, I tell my dad this all the time. He has this knack for like making like the occasional really insightful comment, having watched this team for 50 years. So I guess he had, obviously the knowledge base is there. And he says, you just never know what team you're going to get on any given night. And it's so true. That's that Jekyll and Hyde, right? Like, I think a JT Miller type helps that. I think you're seeing generally better effort from them since he's been back with the team. Assuming Kreider is hurt and comes back healthy, and you've got Mika on the wing, like that top six is pretty solid. We'll see how the bottom six shakes out. Like, there's some talent there too. They've given the defense a bit of a solid facelift. If you get Igor back to last year's Igor, and you get that power play kind of going, like they'll be a very tough out in the playoffs. It doesn't mean they can't be beat by a team that was a tough out. They could be out in the first round. I'm not saying that. That's hockey. But I do think the collection of players now is better than the collection of players then. You're not worried about Alex Wenberg or Filipino on your top line right wing. Like, they've kind of figured that out. You don't have, it's the nature of it, right? Like, I think that this team, talent-wise, top to bottom, is better than last year's team. It means absolutely nothing. I do not think at all, genuinely, that what ails the Rangers is coaching. I do not think Laviolette is a problem. I think that when people want to blame Laviolette, that's taking the blame off the players and giving the players a pass, and I just don't think that that's right. I think the problem is absolutely the players. They're the ones on the ice. The issues to me don't seem to be tactical. I don't see it. I think it's literally they're not that strong mentally. They're just not. And that kind of maybe comes down from Mika's advantage ad. So, Rich, I know where you're going with that. Like, if the dog didn't stop taking a crap, he would have caught the rabbit. And I want to give Drury some credit here, right? Like, he's been active. Like, he's making changes to the roster. Like, he's bringing in elements like a JT Miller, like a Will Borgen. Like, this isn't the same team. There's still a lot of work to do because we're going to be transforming from one core to another, and that's not something that happens overnight. But give credit, like, the effort is there from the front office. 1,000%. Will they make the playoffs? I think they do. The teams behind them, Detroit, Montreal, Boston, the Islanders, the Flyers, like none of these teams scare me. The Rangers are just flat out better than those teams. The teams ahead of them are certainly catchable, right? Especially now with the injury problems in New Jersey. Dougie Hamilton's hurt. Jack Hughes out for the year. Like, are you afraid of Columbus? Not really. I don't think they're an ideal matchup for anybody, given the fact that they have the goaltender who in the playoffs has gotten hot. If you can get a little bit out of that power play and that goaltending is like what it was, they'll be a very dangerous team. Does that mean anything? No. That's hockey. It just means that they will have a shot. If they get out of round one, then people start talking. Will they get out of round one? Maybe, maybe not. I mean, they didn't look out of place against Washington tonight, right? But we'll see where things go. To me, I think there's a good shot they catch the Devils. I think they probably end up in the 3. I think they play Carolina, and they probably lose to Carolina. I mean, I thought they'd lose to Carolina last year. I think Carolina's just really, really good. Now, Carolina's got their own problems. They might be trading Mikko Rantanen anyway. So we'll see. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what the vibes are. Having said that about this year's team, would you make big moves at the deadline that cost you kids and picks? No, because Peter, I don't know what move you would make. Because let's work under the assumption that Kreider's legitimately got an injury. He's not getting traded. And Mika's not getting traded now, right? The deal you'd have to make would be in the bottom 6. because your top 6 is set. Miller and Trudgic are your centers. I mean, I think that's fine. I would do that. Carolina would not do that. There's no way. That'll never happen. I like where your head's at. Carolina's not trading Rantanen in the division to a team that they might play in the first round. They're just not going to do that. That would be nuts. I would even say on the other hand, I wouldn't trade Panarin in the division either. Top 16 shoot and score more. Playoffs are a different animal. Yeah. But like, that's what I'm saying. Like, get in. I do not think they beat Carolina. Would I love to be wrong about that? Yeah. I was happy to be wrong about that last year. I pretty much have picked Carolina to beat them every single time they play in the playoffs because I think Carolina's a problem for them, but they keep beating Carolina. So does Carolina want to see the Rangers? Probably not. But that's that. That's the end of the show tonight. We went a little bit later than I thought, but listen, there was a 7:30 game. You know, tomorrow's my birthday, so I didn't want to do the show tomorrow. And then Friday, I'm taking my son to SmackDown in Philadelphia. I'm a big wrestling guy. I'll be at SummerSlam in case somebody cares. Let's just see how the deadline goes. Like, if something happens that's like this huge deal. I mean, obviously by Saturday we're talking about it, right? It's not gonna talk about it Friday night. That's just not gonna happen. It's not gonna be too busy. By Saturday, we're talking about it. Or at least something. I'm actually going to be at the BlueTruth Underground viewing party on Saturday. That's again 12 o'clock at McHale's in New York. If you're there, come by. Jim and Eddie are awesome. I've known them for so long. You know, they were the originators in really Rangers podcasting. Of the people that I am close with, they do a great job. Blue Shirt Underground. Sean and Rock do a great job on Two Guys, One Cup. Sean McCaff's a great writer. There's a lot of good Rangers content out there that I'm very happy to talk about because I'm a consumer of it just like you guys are. I mean, the fun part about running BlueTruth is that I'm able to talk to you guys and just kind of vent. And, you know, we all want the same things. We all care about the same team. We bleed it. But it's always awesome to, you know, talk things through and get perspectives. I'm always open to people's perspectives. Everybody's like, oh, you always think you're so right. I'm like, no, I don't. When I hear someone else's perspective, either it A, makes me change mine, or B, solidifies mine. I'm always open to hearing these things. I just think when people don't understand salary caps and contracts and that they just view things, oh, trade this guy. It's just not that easy. Like, I don't think it's that easy. It's that easy at all. Chris, thank you very much. Kurt, thanks, brother. That wasn't really the plan, right? The plan was to go at 9, and then lo and behold, Brian forgot there was a hockey game. So it's all good. Thank you, Rich. Appreciate that. John, left-handed man, supposedly their top trade target before Friday. Defenseman? But what do you get? I don't know for who. Like, they got their guys, I think, at least for right now. Like, again, I just think that the big deals happen in the summer. I don't think they happen now. Like that, there is so little time to like hammer. Like, let's just say Mika's okay. Grant moving is no move, which he's not right now. You can't get that contract moved in that short a period of time. There's no way. Brady Tkachuk's a pipe dream, but that's a summertime deal too. It's just everybody. These things are hard to put together. I don't see it happening. Could I be wrong? Yes. Would not be the first time. Listen, guys, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for your likes, your follows, your shares. Thank you for making BlueTruth what it is. It's a lot of fun, especially for me. You guys make it that way. Keep following the page, sharing the content, likes. It's all great. You know, we love that. Let's just hope that the next time, I don't think I'm right. I know you're wrong. Yeah, that's a great t-shirt. I might have to get one. My wife makes t-shirts. I'm gonna have to get that on. Get that on a t-shirt. We'll see. Like I said, if something crazy goes down, I'm gonna find a way to talk about it with you guys. It's what we do. Hopefully they don't. I don't know. I always get nervous these times of year. I do, because you're always worried about, oh my God, what kind of nonsense comes next. It's being a Ranger fan, right? It's change is the only constant, right, for Rangers fans. So guys, like I said, we'll keep an eye out. If anything big happens, we'll be talking about it. Let's just hope they don't screw it up. Let's go Rangers.